these leaders as it was to those who laid them. What is lacking, perhaps, is the political will and commitment on part of some members to relinquish part of their sovereignty for the sake of integration.
There is a lack of commitment, I can say that, because even in our ECOWAS region, for example, we have developed a very useful scheme which we call ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, under which companies will be certified to be able to export to any country within ECOWAS. But once you have done that certification, to move from one country to another, other countries will try to block you because they see you as, if you come in, their goods will not be competitive, or they will lose their industries. But that is not how we see it. We see it as, if one country in ECOWAS prospers, it will have spillover effects to other countries. This is why we developed this scheme. But if countries tend to look at their own national interests and they don't look at the regional interests, then this is what is slowing our regional integration.
And as a union, we should have by now, have a clear definition of what we want, or where we want Africa to be. But you would realize that there was so much difference. People talking about, different things. And that wasn't really, helpful. And look at how many hours we spent on just one issue that could have been resolved, easily. And at the end of the day, you see people, heads of state had to stay up till 1 a.m. just to, to finish, the job that should have been finished, 5 or 6 hours earlier.
As the leaders walked in and out of the hall, this quest remains a challenge to their governments, and tackling it has too remained a problem. But Africa is faced with precisely a more dangerous problem. The recent wave of bomb attacks by the Islamic group Boko Haram in Nigeria is a cause for concern to the continental body. On the economy, growth has been registered, but its sustainability is threatened not only by the global economic crisis, but for the simple reason that trade between countries of the continent has not been impressive. This is further impeded by inadequate infrastructure, or the total lack of it in some cases, and also the simple absence of diversification.
Africa, we have a lot of challenges. Trade is one tool that can help us fast-track our development process. But if you look at the statistics, it shows that trade between and among African members is very low, less than 12%. That's why the trade ministers in their meeting recommended that the heads of state should dedicate the summit to discuss the issues of how do we increase and strengthen trade between and among African countries. And that's why the heads of state also accepted, and yesterday they dedicated the whole day to discuss that, look at the obstacles. Why is it that we are not trading between ourselves? And we know some of the reasons are that, one, most of our countries are raw material producers, and we tend to produce more or less the same raw material, so it's difficult to exchange those materials. But how then can we increase trade? Is that the raw materials that we produce, we have to be able to transform them and process them into finished product. That way we will be able to exchange between and among us. But also there are other issues that hamper trade between countries, is that infrastructure. For example, moving from one country to another, if you are moving by road and the road networks are not good, the cost of transporting these goods is very prohibitive, and it adds to the cost of goods, making our goods less competitive compared to goods that come from outside the continent.
Just take a look at West Africa. We have all these protocols about free movement of people and goods from all the African continent. But most of the time, you have obstacles on the way. Like, one of the speakers was talking about security checks, where you can't move goods from one country to another without you having to pay a bribe for you to pass through those security checks. And I think it's high time for African leaders to take the lead and dismantle all those barriers so that goods can flow from, people and goods can flow from one country to another.
The mantle of leadership changes annually at the level of the Union's Assembly. Benin's Buniyayi takes over the rotating post, but not without the Gambia's support. President Jammeh, who was likely tipped to take over the presidency, made a tactical withdrawal to take care of domestic issues.
It was out of his own will. His Excellency, as you have heard, was just sworn in, a week or so ago. His Excellency understands that he has a mandate and he has a choice, and he made a big pronouncement during his inaugural address. And we had to set, the ball rolling and set up everything. And with this, chairmanship, it would require also a lot of attention. You just don't take the chairmanship just for the sake of taking it. You want to make a difference. You want to devote most of your time to that. And His Excellency would not have that time for this year. And it's not saying there's another year too. There's another time coming. And His Excellency, all that he's saying, we are all Africans. Benin is a good friend. They want it. So His Excellency decided that, okay, I'll give it to our friend for this time, and then I'll wait for another time. And I want to devote this time, to my country to set the ball rolling. When I know that everything is put in place, then I would have now time, and I will be comfortable to go and take up this chairmanship. Because when I take the chairmanship, when he takes the chairmanship, His Excellency, he will want to make a difference.
However, there is air of relief on the issues of franchise, and so much has been achieved. Almost all members of the Union have elections in their countries. In the Gambia, for instance, President Jammeh was returned to the State House by a popular majority, giving him 72% of the votes cast in the November presidential elections. With the coming into force sometime in February of the 15th instrument of the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, the incumbent chairperson of the Union's Commission, Chiang Ping, urged members to become party to the instrument.
It is evident that in the absence of peace and security, there would not be any meaningful development.
We have been cooperating very closely with the United Nations at the level of the African group, and we have signed, actually there's a cooperation agreement between the AU and the United Nations. And as ambassadors in New York, we are also tasked to follow up on some of these agreements, particularly in the areas of peace and security.